time is of the essence, and hopefully other people join. If they don't, again, that's why it's helpful for us to be able to have the recording. Yep. Well, everybody, welcome to the Enneagram webinar today. We are so excited to have you join us. We partnered with Vaxa Collective about a couple months ago to think about what kind of content we want to push out, and really wanted to be able to offer the topic of Enneagrams because it's been a super helpful tool that has emerged in kind of like the personality discovery or self-discovery world, where you can do all different types of assessments to get to know your style better, any way that you want to adapt what you do or learn just more about who you are at essence. So we wanted to be able to offer this as a service for you to dive into. And Vaxa Collective has done this topic many of times, and they're fans of Enneagram, so we're really excited to have them. We have Haley Graylis and Kylie Salmons, who is going to be leading us this evening. They can tell you a little bit more about themselves, but they're two wonderful ladies, and I'm sure you guys are really going to enjoy this. So I will let them take it away.
Thank you so much, Autumn. So I'll start. I am Haley Graylis. So I started Vaxa Collective back in November of 2018 full-time, left my full-time job and benefits and salary and all of that, and decided to start a business helping leaders create high-performing teams through workplace culture by improving leadership development and team building and teams in that way. And so I love using things like Myers-Briggs, the predictive index, and Enneagram also. So Kylie and I actually worked together. She came on board in November. So I had been doing this by myself for a while, had graduated with my master's in organizational development, and been working with a few clients. And she approached me about coming on board as somebody who would help me with marketing. And she also happens to love the Enneagram as well. And so guys, just welcome Kylie also. Kylie, do you want to give a little intro for yourself?
Yeah, I think that was mostly what I was going to say, just that I came on in the fall, the director of marketing and operations. And yeah, like Haley said, I love the Enneagram. I love a lot of personality tests. I think they're all helpful and beneficial, but the Enneagram is my personal favorite, and it's helped me just understand myself better and other relationships in my life. So I'm really excited to be presenting with Haley today.
All right, everybody. So again, feel free to ask questions and engage with us. So, oh, that's us. Okay, so we help leaders build high-performing teams through customized leadership development and employee engagement. So as you all grow through, oh, I love the clapping. Thank you, Ashley Marie. She's like, yeah. So as you all grow throughout your careers in different companies and organizations, you may see us around doing some other work with them, and feel free to reach out if you ever do have questions about this kind of thing. So the key takeaways that we're going to address today are, what is the Enneagram? So a lot of people have been hearing about this. It's getting popular in pop culture. It's something that people are talking about on podcasts and on Instagram all the time and things like that. But you're actually going to learn about the origins and what each type actually looks like, and understand how it's helpful to have self-awareness and understand others, especially in the workplace. That's what we'll be covering a lot of today. And then also the descriptions around Enneagram's core fears, core desires, core weaknesses, and core longings. And that's really the best way to really get to understand what your Enneagram type is, because a lot of times somebody takes an assessment from the internet and they think that maybe they're one type, but this is kind of a journey. So we'll cover that today too. So first of all, what is the Enneagram? You might see this interesting, somewhat witchcraft looking like thing here on the side, but it's not that, don't worry. So Enneagram it's a little unclear of how it actually originated, but there is some interesting information out there about possibly in Russia or somewhere in Europe, but it really started to take hold in the main culture, and people started to really notice it, especially in Christian communities around 1915. And so philosophers started to use this for personal development and a lot of spiritual work as well. So this is also just a tool that gives a system for personality typing. And it's not like this one is better than any others or others are better than this. It just measures something different. So a lot of times when I talk about what the Enneagram is, and I also use predictive index and Myers-Briggs, they measure different things. So when I say that I'm 5'2". Yeah, that measures one thing about me. That doesn't measure anything about my personality. Being 5'2" doesn't tell me how much I weigh, and that matters around health and what clothes I would fit in and things like that. So like, it's like Enneagram measures your height, but you know, that's not measuring weight and values and mindset and faith and anything else about you, anything else that makes you diverse. And the Enneagram actually broken down means, so it comes from the Greek word where Ennea is Greek for 9 and gamma means something more that is drawn or written. So this is 9 things drawn or written in this shape. So it kind of looks like a clock, as you can see, and it goes around clockwise from 1 to 9. You'll also see these arrows or all these lines between them. We won't cover that today, but maybe eventually we could cover something about the arrows of growth and stress. And that's really, really interesting. We just won't have time to get to it today. All right, so uses for the Enneagram. It's a lot about self-knowledge and how important it is to really understand ourselves and even those things about ourselves that are not the most positive sometimes. Being a 7 myself, that's the enthusiast, it has really helped me understand that, hey, I have a tendency sometimes to really long for fun and adventure and comfort and to maybe not stick to things that I don't really like. Kylie's laughing. She's like, yeah, that's you. So it's important to understand those things about myself so I can be aware of them, self-regulate, and also communicate my needs and where I'm coming from to other people instead of expecting others to read my mind, right? It's also really, really helpful to grow in our personality. So knowing that this is something about myself, that I am, you know, enthusiastic, adventure seeking, comfort seeking, and maybe not the most like rule following type of person, it helps me develop in my area of like, yeah, I have these great strengths. Here's how I can use those. But it also is a way for me to say, okay, I need to like tweak some of my behavior sometimes and find ways to get more organized and ways to keep my commitments, things like that. Definitely stuff for team development and leadership and really being aware of that, as well as the emotional intelligence. Has anybody heard about emotional intelligence, EQ? Yeah, some people have. So this just helps with emotional intelligence. Yeah, Autumn's heard of it too. That's great. Okay, so the ways that this actually helps create high-performing teams is vast. So it's, again, just one tool that measures a person, but understanding how each type works together on a team is really, really beneficial because it actually helps us respect and love each other better. And yes, I use the word love because I think it's really important for us to love each other in the workplace. And that's actually one of the reasons I started my business, one of the reasons I got the master's in organizational development. I want people to love where they go to work. I want people to love each other, love themselves, and not be miserable at work because we spend a lot of time doing work or in an office when it's not, you know, stay-at-home orders. And so it's important for us to remember that and realize that, you know, there's a better way to work and live. And so it actually helps with all of those things. Marcus Buckingham does a lot of writing and speaking about leadership and team development. And so I just love this quote that great leaders try to figure out and do a wonderful job of using people's endearing differences rather than fighting against them. So tell me, let's pause here. Unmute yourself or put in the chat box a time that maybe you felt that either a time when somebody had really appreciated you and your unique strengths or a time when they were not appreciating those unique, endearing differences about you. So you can unmute or just put it in the chat box, but please share something. So a time when you felt like somebody did a great job appreciating how you had unique strengths, or a time when you felt like somebody was really misunderstanding you and not appreciating how you were different.
I'll share.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. My boss does a really good job of providing lots of quality feedback. And so she's always noticing things that I did that were just regular things that I did, but like noticing them as a strength. So for example, like the way that I manage my cohort of students, like I have this thing called the 3 most important questions that I found off YouTube. And I tweaked them and like did them with my scholars. And then I shared it with my team, and then they started doing it with their scholars. So she mentioned to me the other day, she was like, "You've impacted more scholars than you've actually coached." And I was like, "Oh, that's dope."
That's cool.
So, oh my gosh, that's really awesome. And it's really exciting to hear that about a leader who appreciates you and values you and then communicates it to you. And she's saying these things frequently enough that you're like, well, hey, this is just what I do. This is just naturally me.
Sure.
And it's not like it has to be this like formalized once a year evaluation of you. I love that. I really like that. And then Autumn even says during my one-on-one with my supervisors, they always start off with feedback from my strengths before areas of improvement. And I think that's great. I mean, it's important to get feedback in both ways because we grow when we hear feedback about things we need to improve, but it's also awesome to start out with something positive to make sure that we feel unique and like we have an endearing difference. And Alex, thank you for sharing. At my current job, I feel that my team does a great job at appreciating my strengths. Recently, I worked with an intern handbook and my team members gave me kudos, not because I did it, but because of how I made it, the things I added to it, because I was thinking about the whole picture. We are often like that with each other and celebrate. I love celebration. That's great. What we do, even when it's not big. And I think that's awesome. A great example too. Thank you, Alex. That's a really good point. And as a 7 myself, the enthusiast, and we'll get to that in a little bit, I am a big fan of celebrations. Like it's probably my favorite thing in the world. And just, you can celebrate anything, even if it's a little thing. Like the other day, I love Facebook Marketplace and I got a great deal on a beautiful green velvet sofa and I've been celebrating. Yes, I know. Can you even believe it? I got it for $200. I can't believe it. Lord. So grateful. And Kylie's actually storing it at her house right now because I don't have room in my house until somebody moves out and I move into the office. So next time we do a webinar, I will be in a different room. Anyway, thank you everybody for sharing. Celebration. Love it. Oh, I wish we had this emoji, praise hands. Okay, so we are actually not certified in the Enneagram. However, we are dangerous enough to use it, know a lot about it, done coaching around it. And if you are interested in learning more about Enneagram after this, we'll make sure that you have the video so you can go back to this slide or this part of it. But there are great books around it. So I took an Enneagram class that actually covered that book on the top left, The Complete Enneagram by Beatrice Chestnut. She's like the godmother of Enneagram. People love her. Ian Cron, The Road Back to You, is another great resource. And he has a podcast, so you can get free resources on this. He has actually that podcast and another one, both on Enneagram. And then there are some actually like great stuff on the internet. So the Enneagram Institute is a wonderful place to actually work on that personal development and personality development. So once we decide on which Enneagram type is yours throughout this session, I really encourage you to go to the enneagraminstitute.com and read about your type and then look at the levels of health around it. So there are levels from like 0 to 10 or something. You can see, am I in a healthy level, an average level, or an unhealthy level? And hey, it's important if we're at an unhealthy level to be humble, admit that, zero in on it. And then if you want to reach out to me or Kylie and get some advice on how to grow and be more healthy in your Enneagram, because like that's just describing one thing about you, mostly your core fears and core desires. We'll unpack that too. Truity has some great stuff as well. And then Kylie and I are huge fans of Your Enneagram Coach. So if you have Instagram, you can look at her profile, maybe not until the end of this, just so we can stay focused. But Your Enneagram Coach is a wonderful account from Beth McCord, and she shares wonderful posts on each type's core fear, core desire, core longing. What does your inner child need to hear? And that's a big thing in psychology and therapy right now, is like comforting our inner child or looking at ourselves from from an adult to child perspective. So I really look into this because Kylie and I have learned a lot about the Enneagram and about ourselves and others by using those resources. Okay, so before the fun begins, let's talk about how this is a journey. So you all may have taken the assessment, maybe gotten your results, and usually they're in order of which ones you align with the most by percentage, right? And so I really encourage you to not necessarily commit exactly to that number one type that you got. A lot of people will be like, oh, it says I'm a type 7, so that must be it. That is likely the case, yes, but really look at your top 3, read those profiles, and go on a journey with us so that you can really understand the core fear and core desire of those types, and if that's truly what aligns with you. And I say that because sometimes we can test as a wrong number based on our level of health. So I've tested as a 1 before and Kylie would be like, girl, you are not a 1. But that's because the 7 goes to the 1 in stress. And I was like in the middle of my master's degree working on all these tough papers and presentations. And so I was in a stressful place. So that's why I probably tested as a 1. I've also tested as a 2 before, because social 7s, there's subtypes of each one. We will not get into the
it's a whole thing. Yeah.
I'm a social 7, and those can sometimes look like a 2. I am not a 2 at my core. I'm a 7. So that's why we say that. Yeah. Oh, did you have a question, Ashley Marie? Oh.
No, there's like a net. Sorry.
Oh, I was like, her hand is flailing. Is she raising it emphatically? Okay. So any questions so far about this journey? Okay. So yeah, no type is better than any other type. It's not, the best to be something, especially like sometimes men and women might think like, oh, a lot of women are this number, a lot of men are this number. It really doesn't matter. Like, it's nothing about gender or race or background. I mean, this is a worldwide thing. So, and anybody can use the Enneagram for self-development. Okay, so again, we will discuss, and if you look at the slide right here, you'll see these 4 little icons that Kylie has designed, because she's a fantastic designer. And so when you see those, that is the key for what we're looking at on each slide. If it's that little exclamation point, it's the core fear, and then we have the core desire, core weakness, and core longing. So we'll unpack that with each number as well. All right, so I'll let Kylie jump in, and she's going to cover numbers 1 through 5, and then I'll jump in and covers 6 through 9, and then the conclusion. But again, feel free to type in the chat box if you have a question or a comment about something, or raise your hand and unmute yourself or something. And we want you to engage with this. Oh, actually, sorry. Before that, we have a poll, everybody. I totally forgot. I created a poll. All right. So what Enneagram type are you? So just click 1 through 9. And if you're not sure yet, if you're not really committed, click that one. That's totally fine. This is anonymous. And also, so I'm not sure if this is going to have Kylie also take it, but
yeah, it's not going to let me because I'm a co-host on it, but.
Okay, good. I think only 4 people have taken it.
I lied. I put the wrong number.
Oh, you did? Here, let me end it and relaunch it then.
Thanks.
Relaunch poll 1. Yes. Okay. Ooh, that was easy. Okay. Okay, we're waiting for 3 people to put their answers in. Can everybody participate? Is everybody participating?
Rebecca has a question in the chat.
Oh, sorry, Rebecca. Let's see. Yeah, the highest percentage. That's right. And if you felt like you really aligned with that one, if you feel like, you're still on the journey, you're not sure, click still not sure, and that's okay. That's why we're unpacking all of these today. Okay, we're missing 1 person. Has 1 person not shared? If you're not sure, just click not sure.
Hey, so
Yeah.
I should probably have like 2 Zoom accounts because I'm using my phone for audio and then my computer for the image. So that's probably why you're missing 1.
Oh, thank you. Perfect.
All right.
Thank you. There's a way to link them. I'm not sure how to do it. I can't remember. No biggie though. Oh, I just exited it. Oh no, guys. Oh, here it is. Okay. In poll, share results. Great. So can you all see it? Great. Okay. So it looks like we have 1 person who's a 1, 2, 3, 2 people who are 2s like me, and an 8. Great. Wonderful. All right. So we'll unpack all of these, but I guess we'll have to remember for 4, 5, and 6, and 9, we might not have anybody who is that. 4, 5, 6, and 9. Okay. All right. So Kylie will cover these 1 through 5. Take it away, Kylie.
Awesome. Thanks. Oh my gosh, my dog was just literally going nuts, and I'm really sorry if he starts barking again. All right, 1s are typically called the perfectionist or the reformer. It depends on what assessment that you take, but That is the two titles given to one. One's core self, they have an emphasis on integrity and self-control. Their attention goes toward seeing what is wrong and doing the right thing. So they're really known for their honesty, their dependability, common sense. So with that being said, a one's core fear is not just being like perceived as wrong or bad or evil, but that they actually are like to their core, like corrupt and unredeemable and bad and wrong and evil. Which I can attest to this, like as I am a type 1, I feel like there's a difference between people thinking that you are a certain way and like you looking like maybe you're wrong, versus like telling yourself like internally that you are bad or wrong or evil. So one's core desire and their motivations are rooted in having integrity and being good and being right and honest and virtuous and accurate. And when that is not going well, or when a one is stressed or in a not healthy spot, they can become resentful. So they tend to repress their anger, and that leads to them feeling really frustrated with themselves, with other people, with the world, for not being perfect. And so what a one needs to hear is that they are good, and not just like someone, you know, affirming them, saying like, oh yeah, you're good, no worries or whatever, but like to their core, they need to know and believe they're good, that they are morally right, that they are righteous. And so those are the core attributes of a one. So in the workplace, or not in the workplace, even in like personal relationships, and ones are thorough. They are the reformer, meaning they've maybe been changed in a way to like have been improved, like, if that makes sense. I feel like that didn't make sense coming out of my mouth, but they are an activist. These are the people that are really reliable and dependable. They're really ethical in their decisions and choices. They also can have a tendency to be really rigid and inflexible. That's me. Like when I am stressed out, when I am like not in a good spot, I am very inflexible, very rigid in my like thinking and ideals, and it's not great, but like I definitely, it's a good indicator for me that maybe like I'm not that healthy. And same goes for being overly critical. So on teams, ones bring a lot of principle and discipline to a team, and they are often inspired by great vision, and they want to make sure that ones want to make sure that the team is working toward their team goals in a way that's ethical. And under stress, this is kind of what I was talking about, but ones can be challenging to work with because they become overly critical of their teammates for not doing things the right way. And I mean, I get that way a lot, where, you know, I have to remind myself there is more than one right way to do something. And but when you're working
that, Kylie.
What?
I'm here to remind you of that.
Yeah, thank you. Because I'm like, no, but you know, ones can really think like, no, I literally know the right way to do it. And sometimes they might be right, and sometimes it's like not that big of a deal if people do things a different way. You know, my husband and I have like the same like ideal or like goals for our home, or like the way we want things kept, but our way of getting there is totally different. And it's very easy for me to be like, that is not the right way to do that. But anyway, so that can happen, you know, within a team as well. So ones work best on teams when they are given a role where they can bring structure to pushing goals forward. So if you typed as a one, I think the poll said there was one person. But if you think you might be a one after reading this, because sometimes that happens too when you're listening to different types, like read through this list real quick and let me know, or let us know if there's anything that sticks out to you. And in ways that people on your team can relate to you, if that makes sense. So just take like a few seconds to read over.
Yeah, from that or from your own mind too.
Sure, yeah.
Looks like, is it?
No, this list is the only list like this. Look at like it through one.
So Ashley Marie, you said you are, and I think, is it Galen?
Her name is Galen.
Galen, yes.
Galen.
I knew a Galen, and it was a dude from like Bulgaria, but that it wasn't spelled the same. But I was like, what? So yeah, tell us, how can people relate to you as a 1? What do you want to hear from your teammates and from your bosses and your friends?
I love being extra reliable. Like if I say I'm going to be somewhere, I'm going to be there. It makes me anxious if I can't be there. But I've learned to be more mindful of the commitments that I make because I don't want to stress myself out. Because I am going to hold myself to the standard of being there. And then I just have a level of excellency. Like I want things to be done well, and I want them to be done honorably and as honest as possible. And people say that I'm very forthcoming, and I'm usually the one that says all the things that other people are thinking. But it's just so it can be ethical. Like, I'm not lying to you. I'm telling you what it is.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that, Ashley Marie.
Along the lines of what Ashley said, I think that showing understanding is important. Because if you did not understand that I was a 1 or understand why sometimes I do the things that I do, I feel like I can come off as a perfectionist, but it's a lot more to that. So in the workplace for me, just understanding that I do strive for greatness, and it's just, I mean, it really is a good thing. It's only bad when I put stress on myself. Everyone else should want someone in the workplace to be reliable and determined.
Oh, that's a great point.
Yeah,
it's good to have ones.
Yeah. And go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I was going to say something about what Galen said. It becomes bad for me when I get frustrated with other people because I'm very critical. So like if I have the capacity to do it right, why can't you do it right? Or if I have the capacity to get it done on time, why can't you? Or if I made it a priority, why didn't you?
Right.
I love hearing other people say things that I feel. So that's good to just hear that perspective.
And as we're talking about this, it might be fun to, do you guys know how to rename yourself on Zoom? Let's write your first name and then the number that you think you are. So if you hover your mouse over your video, click those 3 dots. That's the menu, and go down to rename, and then you can just put in a different name in there. So as you can see, mine now says Haley 7. Kylie has 1. Galen's 1. Oh wait, Ashley, you think you're a 2, or did you mistype?
No, I'm a 2, but I'm tied on my test. I'm tied with a 1 and a 3 as my top.
Oh, okay. So you're probably, you're definitely one of those wings. We'll talk about wings another time also.
Yes. So my wings are, definitely my wing is 1 another. Mm-hmm. It's a strong wing.
So we have, is it Key is an 8? Or is it Quay?
Quay.
Well, like Key Coffee is spelled like that, but it's.
No.
Yeah.
I know. I call it Quay Coffee though.
Yeah, I like that. Got another 7. Awesome, guys. Thanks. Everybody knows how to do it. It's because this is a young group. Sometimes, with those not young groups, they're like, how, where, and what? Anyway. Okay, let's move on to number
Perfect.
2. Thanks, Kylie.
All right. So 2s are called the giver or the helper. They want to give their time and attention to helping other people and making sure that others are taken care of. So for a 2, their fear is that people won't need their help, that they won't be wanted, that they'll even be rejected or deemed worthless, that their time and energy and presence isn't valuable. And so the core desire for a 2 is that they'll be loved and appreciated and wanted. And this is what is motivating them to want to give their time and attention to other people, because they want to feel those things, the appreciation and feeling loved. So when all is not right in a 2's world, they can become prideful, which, I think we can all become prideful, but for 2's, they are tempted to deny their own needs and emotions, and they become really hyper focused on helping, like hyper-focused on the needs of other people. And so this becomes prideful because they have needs too, and they just aren't letting anyone know that they do, because they do not want it to interfere with their ability and desire to help other people. So twos need to hear that they are wanted and loved. And even more so, I think twos need to hear that they don't need to earn love by trying to help other people. So twos they're helpful, they're affirming, they're generous, they're serving. I think I said in another session one time that like twos are the type of people that are going to be helping, you know, at a team lunch, which like nobody's probably having those right now, but at a team lunch, like helping set stuff out, or at the end, like helping put stuff away or whatever. They're just like always looking for an opportunity to be appreciated and needed and wanted. They're very nurturing though, but they can also come across as smothering or codependent. So in the workplace, twos bring their interpersonal skills and consideration to the teams. In groups, they're excellent at checking in and making sure that everyone is taken care of. But under stress, twos can be challenging because they're so focused on those team relationships, and that it's at the expense of completing a project or getting something done, potentially. If twos become kind of that like codependent, like smothering type. But they work best in teams when their role is one that functions as being relational and collaborative, depending on, you know, what the project or what the situation or the circumstance is. So if you typed as a two, I think maybe there was one person that typed as a two. Again, take a moment to look over this, or just anything that comes to your mind that is a way that people can relate to you or help better understand like who you are in the workplace. And then just please share that with us.
I'm the two in the room. This was uncomfortable to hear because it makes it sound like I'm just chasing after love, but I am. I think if you look at my life right now, and I won't get all into it, it's a direct reflection of me trying to like attract love in my life. But I genuinely care for others. I think that's one of my gifts, is that I tell people I'm not nice. People are like, you're so nice. And I'm like, I'm really not. But people feel loved and cared for by me. And so I think that's pretty relevant in this situation. And I do want to feel appreciated, but I find a way to foster that around my birthday. So my birthday is my favorite holiday. And I invite all the people that love me the most, and they shower me with love. And
when is your birthday?
May 16th.
Oh, that's a good
one. And then I shower myself with a lot of love. I'm always talking to myself in the mirror and telling myself how beautiful and vibrant I am. And I give myself a lot of this, I don't think I'm like self-seeking or seeking approval. I give my love freely. But I think I just want I want people to give it to. Like, I'm like, you want love? Do you want love?
I love that. Ashley Marie, I'm like, we should be friends. I want love.
I want love. See?
Yes.
Well, and I think it's evidence of like being in a healthy spot too, just like the example you gave about your birthday, of saying like, hey, I want to be celebrated. I want to feel loved. And you know that other people in your life want to do that for you. So like, to not deny that, like, that's like that, you know, that stress part I was talking about of like, you know, denying your own needs or whatever, but like to say like, no, I want to celebrate my birthday. I want to feel loved, I think is like a sign of health and is a good thing.
You know, creating opportunities for other people to love on you, since you do it all the time.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I love that. Thank you for sharing. Were there any other twos?
I'm a 2.
Oh, great. And how would you want people to relate to you?
You know what? I think it's really interesting. I wouldn't consider myself someone like seeking love like Ashley, like I'm on the same boat, but there's so much love to be given. So why not? Like, that's the way I feel about it. And there's a lot of, it kind of comes back into why I'm in the like healthcare, you know, there's so much need, there's so much things to do.
Oh yeah.
There's like so much things that can get fixed. And I kind of think that is rooted in upbringing, you know, especially if, you know, you kind of carry your family on your back, like you naturally grow up like that. And so I think I really like thanking me for my help and then thanking me again and again and again. Like, that's funny. I wouldn't openly admit that, but it does feel good when someone says, thank you. Like, I really appreciate that. And I'm like, I got you. Yeah. You know, or I think also it's very interesting about reminding, like having friends that reminding you to, it's okay to ask for help. You know, you don't have to carry everything by yourself. And that's why you have friends and family. So, yeah.
That's a great and very insightful point. Thank you. And did you say you're in healthcare, Rebecca?
Yeah.
I think that's really common for 2s. Very cool.
Is it?
Yeah. Okay. Then I think somebody is a 3. Somebody was a 3, right? Maybe
Wing
not.
3.
Wing 3. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Kylie, tell us about 3s.
Yeah, awesome. So 3s are known as the achiever or the performer. 3s are very self-assured. They want to look put together, and they're typically overly image conscious. That sounds negative, and I don't mean it to be that way, but they're just how they present themselves is really important to them. So because of that, 3s are fearful of being exposed or being thought of as incompetent. They do not want to look like they've failed in any way. So their core desire is to be admired, to be successful, and to feel valuable, and to be respected by other people. So 3s can often be tempted to be deceitful. They may wear a bunch of masks in order to present themselves in a way that they think is what others expect of them. 3s could also be tempted to like kind of cut corners to get something done, not like doing something wrong, but just like, hey, is there a shortcut so I can like get this thing done so that I can like get it done really fast so I can, you know, be respected and admired for how quickly I got this thing done. Sometimes is how 3s, it like the thought process can like manifest itself in a type 3. So 3s need to hear that they are loved for simply being just themselves. They don't have to pretend to be somebody that they're not, and that they are loved for who they are and not what they do. So 3s are people that are very efficient, they're energetic, they're self-assured, they're really motivated in the things that they do. They're a team builder. And I think like a team player, like they want to, just like motivate other people to their level. But they can also be a workaholic and self-promoting as well. So on a team, 3s bring excellence and they bring adaptability to teams. That's kind of that wearing the mask that I was talking about, but I also think of 3s sometimes as like a chameleon. So they can, you know, just kind of be not just what they think others want them to be, but they also can, you know, switch kind of roles or switch gears or like, you know, kind of change for whatever the situation is. So they're very adaptable, but they oftentimes are extremely polished. That's that like image thing I was talking about. They're great at selling and marketing a team's product or service or idea. And helping out also in any way that they're needed. So they can be challenging on a team to work with because they can become too focused on getting the work done themselves at the expense of collaboration and delegation within a team. And they work best when they're in a role where their impressive results are valued. It's 3 in a nutshell. So again, if you typed as a 3, I think Ash Marie said she maybe had a 3 wing, but read through this list again. We'll do the same kind of thing. And let us know if anything sticks out to you.
I'd say encouraging me to slow down and nurture my inner life. One of my best friends is on this call, just not named, but she reminds me all the time that I need to slow down. And then you mentioned that 2s can be self-reporting,
self-promoting.
And I say that there's like I think I do a really good job of like just sharing what it is that I do well for the purpose of like showing others, like it's kind of like a challenge, like, okay, so if you're in my friend circle, like this is what I got going on, what do you have going on? And not like in a rude way, but just like in a, like, you have so many gifts and things that you could be using, like what is it that you're doing? So yeah. And I said in the chat that I manage my brand well. So I don't think I'm very polished. I'm actually not very polished at all. But I am mindful of what I post on like my social medias and stuff. So if people are like, can you share this? I'm like, if that ain't in alignment with my brand, I'm not sharing it.
I love that.
I'm not. You could be my favorite cousin, my best friend. If it's not in alignment with my brand, I'm not posting.
Ashley, that is so true. Oh my God.
And that's important. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I love that. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I thought I was unmuted. I 100% agree with you. So I put number 2 because I feel like that's really the real me, but my highest percentage is number 3. And it's interesting because I think it kind of goes back to upbringing. Like when it comes to being polished and things of that sort, my mother would never let me go to the grocery store in some like flip-flops or like my PJs or something like that. So it's not really like you want to go above and beyond. It's kind of like that's what was instilled in you as a child. So that's interesting that could be kind of seen as, you know, what, I can't remember the words that you used, but and I completely agree with the whole social media. Like if it does not really stand for like my core values, I'm not posting that. And I mean, and on my social media, I probably don't have anything personal, directly tied to me. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
So I agree kind of with what everyone's saying, because my second one was a 3. It's at 94%.
Oh.
I think I'm an 8, and that's at 98%.
Mm-hmm.
And like that piece of being thought incompetent, like I automatically got enraged, because that is like my thing of like, don't think I can't do something, because I absolutely can, and let me show you, and I'm going to do it like 10 times better than what you thought I was going to do anyways. So it's really interesting to see this, because I was wondering like how I'm a 3, because I think I have like, sure, this achiever sort of tendencies, but going back to kind of that piece of also the workaholic and encouraging myself to slow down. Like once I'm in a job, I'm in there. Like there is no slowing down. It's me in the job. So like reading that and thinking, even what I'm doing right now, there are moments where I have to tell myself, oh, I probably should slow down. But it's really hard to do that when you're giving 110% of that job. So I thought that was really interesting. And now I'm like, yep, I can see where my 3 comes in a little bit.
Yeah, I think 8s and 3s look a lot alike in that way.
Yeah. for sure.
Did y'all say that they were workaholics? 3s?
It's like a tendency to be a workaholic. Yeah.
Yeah, I have that tendency.
Would you also say it's a little like competitive in a sense?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I think most 3s that I know are
3s and 8s
and they're competitive against themselves too. Like, I did this, but I'm going to beat it this time better, whatever their own record for whatever reason, I feel like are a lot of the 3s that I know. Yeah. Okay, so just for time's sake, I want to make sure that we get everything covered. I think no one said they were 4 or 5. I still want to cover them, but we'll just kind of fly through it if that's okay, Haley.
Yeah.
4 and 5, just so you guys, are aware of maybe people that are these types as well.
And if you do feel like this is one of those is actually what you relate to the most, then we'll unpack it too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, so 4s are called the Individualist, or sometimes they're called the Romantic. Their fear is that they are going to be abandoned, that they are inadequate or not authentic, and they think to themselves, something is significantly missing in me, like eternally, like internally, something is missing in me. So at their core, 4s desire to be authentic. They desire to be unique. They desire to be special. And their weakness, or when they're not the healthiest, they tend to believe that they are flawed in some way. So again, this like something is missing from them, and that other people have what they need, so they become envious, which is really fascinating. I'm just going to share this real quick. So it's funny because I actually haven't known a 4 to be like, to like actually say, I am very envious of this person because they have this thing. I think it manifests itself totally different in 4s. I had a friend text me the other day that literally about another friend who was a 4 and said, do all 4s hate other 4s? And I laughed because I knew that she didn't actually like hate this other person, but there was just this conflicting like desire to be the most like unique and special one, like within this like group text. And so I think that was like a good way to say that there was this temptation to feel really envious, even though those weren't like the actual words that this person was using. But 4s need to hear that they are seen and loved for exactly who they are. They are special and unique, and they should know that they're not like inferior, they're not incomplete, that they are worthy. So 4s they're original, they're creative, they're authentic, they're really refined, usually in the types of books they read, the music they listen to, the types of restaurants, the types of drinks like wine or cocktails that they drink. They're really refined in all that. They tend to be expressive. They can be moody. They could feel like they're misunderstood a lot. But on teams, 4s bring a lot of creativity and awareness to teams. They are, they ensure that they want to ensure that goals are created and executed in a manner that is true to the team and the company and the culture. That's that authentic piece. But team members can be challenged by 4s because 4s can become really self-absorbed, like just inwardly like looking, and that those feelings of feeling misunderstood, and it can be difficult for them to participate fully. So that can be frustrating to other team members, but they work best when they are given the opportunity to bring their creative abilities and sensitivity to different projects. And I will say that I don't think all 4s like have creative roles, because that's kind of what it sounds like, is that like, oh, if you're a 4, then you're like in, graphic design or whatever, which may be the case for some, but I think that 4s in all different roles, they will bring a lot of really creative ideas, and hopefully those ideas can be like implemented by the creatives like within your organizations. So does anyone feel like that's them? If not, we don't necessarily have to go through this next piece. We can move on to type 5 for time's sake, but.
Sorry, Haley, I messaged you privately. I did get a high percentage as a 4, but we don't need to go through this. I can look over it afterwards. So I just wanted to represent for those people out there.
All right, thank you.
We can always, talk about that offline too, so. All right, fives are the investigator, the observer. Fives are very alert. They're very insightful. They're curious. They're able to concentrate and focus on developing complex ideas and complex skills. They're independent. They're very innovative, but they can often become, really preoccupied in their thoughts and stay in their head a lot. So fives are fearful of their space. Oftentimes, like their mental space, like they're terrified that their space is going to be invaded. They're fearful of being, thought of as incapable or ignorant on a topic. And they are, or if they just fear that their energy is going to be depleted. So their core desire is to be thought of as, and to be capable and competent. And avarice is a word that I was not familiar with until I knew of the Enneagram, but it's just this idea of this like extreme greed or extreme greed with like knowledge. So they hold on to a lot of thoughts because they're worried that they'll be depleted if they like share those or talk about those. And they're also tempted to minimize their own needs. So fives need to hear and be reminded that their needs are not a problem. I think even more than that, fives' needs are important and that they can share them without feeling depleted. So like I said, fives are very observant, they're reasonable, they're objective, they're very perceptive, they're really wise, but they can also seem very distant. They also have a tendency to not trust very well because, I think they just think like their thoughts and their ideas like, or what is it are the most like competent, and so someone else bringing those to the table kind of threatens that at times. But fives bring strategic thinking and focus to teams. They oftentimes can be like the designated expert on a topic, and so they use their brain power to help solve problems. They can be a challenge to teams when they can't really detach from their intellectual worlds, if you will. So just this staying in their head. So you don't really know sometimes like what a five is thinking or feeling or because they're just like holding on to this knowledge and keeping it in their head. But they do their best work when they're given a role where they can have very sharp mental focus and very strategic in their planning and innovation.
Yeah. And I'll add that avarice also has that meaning of the ability to get by with less. And that goes along with like, they feel like they are lacking something and that that their needs are too much for others. And so they will get by with less. And as a 7, in health, we go to the 5 and take on positive qualities of the 5. So I go from being this like maximalist, like the more the better. If a little something is great, then a lot of something is even better. And so when I'm going to the 5, I kind of chill out from my like hyper activity, needing lots of things, needing multiples of something, being really comfortable, needing to be around friends and socially stimulated all the time, to being okay in solitude and okay living as a minimalist and getting by with what I already have, and not being more needy or demanding of other people's time and resources and things like that. And so when I am going to the 5 in health and taking on those qualities, I really love it. And I love like feeling healthy and feeling like, wow, this really does feel different than like my normal state. Not to say 7s are bad, but I'm just taking on some balancing qualities from the 5s and so different than a 7.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good piece. That's bad.
Same. I kind of rank a little high in the 5 too. So it's kind of the same for me. But it's weird though to think of it from the perspective. I don't think of myself like as an intellectualist or anything like that, like just hoarding information. But it's interesting to look at it from this perspective.
Yeah, it is. So I don't think we have 5s, right?
Question. Are wings Ashley. Are wings determined by going up 1 and under 1? So if I'm type 8, will my wing be 7 or 9?
It'll be 7 or 9. And there are different theories about wings. We can do a whole nother session if you guys want to at some point. But yeah, so a 1's wings would be 9 or 2. As an 8, yours would be, 7 or 9. And some theories say that, you have a balance of both. Some people don't believe in wings. Some think that you're just one, and then maybe halfway through life you switch to the other. It can be different things. I feel like I'm a 7 wing 8 mostly, but maybe someday it'll switch and I'll be more 6-ish than 8-ish. But yeah, that's a great question about wings. And then arrows, when I mentioned going from 7 to 5 in health, that's a whole other thing. There's a lot to the Enneagram.
I will say that I took this test, I think, whenever I was doing personal care for a really long time, and I came up as a 2, and now I'm here as an 8, and it's very interesting because, I mean, you go through life, you change, and I can see how I have changed from a 2 to an 8.
Yeah, okay. So I don't know if I would agree that people change, but it's interesting because 2 and 8 are connected with an arrow.
Yeah.
So when 8s are healthy, they look like 2s and take on those qualities. And when 2s are unhealthy, they look like 8s.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. So we'll have to talk about those arrows maybe at the end if we have a little time, because that is really true. 8s and 2s are connected. We'll talk about that later though. Okay, time for 6. Do we have anybody who's a 6 on the call? I don't think there was. No? Which is interesting because in America, 6 is the most common number. Real interesting. So if you end up feeling like maybe this is one of yours, just, speak up and we'll unpack that too. Okay, so the 6 and their core fear is really fear itself. They are the type that is most likely to be like worst case scenario thinking, and they'll be the ones with a backup plan to get us out of danger and trouble if we need it. They really need security and safety. That is their main thing, and they fear not having security. They definitely fear being blamed, not being having people be loyal to them. They don't want to be abandoned, and they just have more of like a general anxiety or worrisome demeanor, not in a necessarily negative way. It's really what those people on our teams are what keep us safe and what mitigate risk. So if you have a 6 on your workplace team or something like that, they're going to be the types who are probably going to speak up and say the what ifs, and maybe they will like shut down an idea, but they're doing it because they want something to be successful, kind of like the 1 in that way. And they're doing it because they want it to be successful. So they're going to point out the thoughts that like are going to keep the idea from being successful, and then you can work through that. So it's just a really important way to be mindful of that. They're not just shutting an idea down because they don't like it, but because instead they're wanting to mitigate the risk. So their core desire is to have security and support from those around them who they love. So it's really important to give 6s that security and commitment and loyalty. Their core weakness is that anxiety that I mentioned. So it's always kind of being in worst case scenarios. So when a 6 is more healthy, they're not going to be as obviously stuck in that area. They're going to look more like the 9, and they're going to avoid conflict and go with the flow on things. And so that's one of the arrow things also. But when they're not healthy, 6s really can stay in this constant state of worry. And so again, what they long to hear internally, like in their core, is that they are safe and secure. They're going to look like people, sometimes like 1s in that reliable way and committed. They are going to be those people who prepare a lot. And I'll give you an example. I was in Australia with a friend who's a 6, and it was hilarious. So I am not the most prepared person. Like Kylie and I are going to Minnesota tomorrow. I've got clothes like thrown into a suitcase. Nothing is like folded or decided upon yet. We'll figure it out. I'll do it tonight. But I was in Australia with a friend who's a 6 a couple years ago, and there was a night when, we're exhausted from being in the Great Barrier Reef all day and like being on a boat in the sun. And so like our flight out of the city into Sydney was not until 9 or 10 in the morning. I was going to get up and pack my suitcase and get everything ready from the hostel in the morning. I don't want to get up. I'm tired. I'm sunburned. Leave me alone. And she looked at me and goes, "Get up and pack your suitcase." And I, being a 7 wing 8, was like, "Don't tell me what to do." And so I was not the prepared one the evening of, but you better know I got everything packed up before our flight. She like wanted us to be late. She was like, it almost frustrated me that we were still on time. You got it all packed up in the morning. But I was like, yeah, don't tell me what to do. It's all fine. I may not look like a prepared 6, but I will get it done at the last minute if I have to. So that's kind of what it looks like in that difference of like the 6 wanting to be prepared and then like the 7 wanting to like be comfortable, chill in my sunburned aloe body and figure it out in the morning. And again, that worst case scenario is really the big thing. But it was like, it's a funny quote that now we have a lot of banter and dialogue about, where she'll try to tell me what to do and I'll tell her not to do that. So 6s want us to relate to them by these things. So really reminding them of optimistic perspectives. So if you're working with a 6 and talking with them, remind them that like not everything has to be done super far in advance. It doesn't have to be prepared ahead of time. Sometimes it's okay to be flexible and spontaneous. Sometimes like the best thing can happen. Encouraging them to talk about their fears and to not just fester that anxiety inside of them, but instead like helping them to understand that they can come to you as a person who is safe and you're not just going to try to solve all their problems. So a lot of times, have you guys seen that video? I think maybe it was a commercial with a woman with a nail in her head. Does anybody remember this? She's talking to her husband or her boyfriend and just complaining about this like headache she has and how much her head's hurt all day. And it's just like this stabbing pain. And he just keeps trying to tell her about the nail in her forehead. It's like a literal nail. And she just keeps like being like, you're not listening. That's not the point. That's not the point. And all she wanted him to do was really just to sit there and understand and listen to her and let her vent and to not solve the problem. And so that's kind of how it is. Sometimes we have to just let them vent about something and communicate about it. And eventually, I think they will probably come up with their own solutions or then at a certain point, ask us for help. Okay, the next is 7. So I know we have a few 7s. Autumn is a 7. Let's see, Marte was a 7. Is that it? So there's a few of us. So as 7s, our core fear is being deprived, trapped in pain or discomfort, limited, bored, having people sometimes even tell us what to do, and FOMO, that missing out on something fun. So we're kind of like a puppy in that way. Like my roommate actually just got a puppy and she goes, he is such a 7. He's got FOMO. You know, if he hears somebody outside the door, he just like wants to be outside of the door and say hello to that person. And I feel like that is a good way of representing a 7. I don't want to miss out on something, especially if I'm more unhealthy. I don't want that. The healthier I am, the more okay I am with solitude and that sort of thing. But yeah, we don't want to be limited. I don't want to feel like I'm going to miss out on an opportunity, even if it's not social. I was hoping to get this beautiful bamboo shelf yesterday, and the person on Facebook Marketplace ended up quadrupling the price of it. It was uncool, but I really felt limited, and like she took away my opportunity to get it at that fair price she originally put it at. And so yeah, I guess that was kind of like a fear that I was living in. Our core desire is to feel happy. We want to be comfortable and content, that feeling of satisfaction. A lot of times 7s really desire beautiful surroundings, comfortable clothes and bedding, beautiful aesthetics, delicious food and drinks. And those are just the things that we're grasping for, is like beauty, comfort, and pleasure. Our core weakness is gluttony. So it's kind of the opposite of avarice from the 5. So that was getting by with less, and gluttony is feeling like an emptiness inside that we're constantly trying to fill. And it kind of just feels insatiable. And we want to keep getting more and more of something. One time I've even bought like when you like a pair of shoes and you're like, oh, like once these shoes wear out, what if they don't sell this style anymore? And I bought 2 pairs of the exact same shoe and I like them. One of them, I even ended up buying a 3rd later on because I was like, I'm going to need it. And I mean, I did go through all of those. So it was good planning and preparation. But that was like kind of a gluttony of like, well, I don't want them to not make this style anymore. And to be satisfied and content and know that I have that there. And then what we long to hear, so what our inner child longs to hear is you will be taken care of. You will be cared for. That's really important to remember. So again, we will look optimistic, spontaneous, and flexible, not necessarily the most precise and detailed people, a lot more pragmatic. So that's like practical with issues, coming up with like, how can we actually get this done? What does this actually feel like and look like? But with a visionary mindset. So we can be practical, pragmatic, but also think about like the future. What is the big picture of this? What is a big goal I have around something? And when we're unhealthy, we can definitely look scattered and unreliable and uncommitted, especially if something that we're supposed to do wasn't our idea or part of our own agenda. Yeah, Kylie's like, yeah, that's you. So other sevens, how are you relating to this?
True.
Yeah.
So parts of it is yes. I know I'm talking. Parts of it is yes, but my friend Cheyenne is right here. She's a Kauffman Scholar as well. So we just decided to use the same computer. But it was just funny because she's right when all the positive stuff was really good. And then right when you said unreliable and scattered, she was like, yes, now it's me. Now that's my wing. So I was laughing a bit. But I think that it could be true. I desire to be cared for. I desire to know. I feel like that my ideas there's a vision, and then being able to go about that in practical ways.
Yeah.
But also thinking, I'm goal oriented. I don't know if that relates with 7, but I am very goal oriented. So if I set a goal, I'll create a plan to make it happen, and then I do it. But sometimes, like if I don't see the vision for it, I can just be like not all the way in. Like I can't be 100% in if there's no vision. But I'll do it. It just wouldn't be my best work. It'll be like, I got it done. Like that, you should be satisfied. It's done. I figured it out. But I wasn't like excited about it or put in like 100% effort. So I know that's something I can work on. Like if I don't want to do something or if I don't see the importance of it, it's hard for me to be like all in and focused on something.
And that's important for you to have that self-awareness and communicate it to your team and your leaders. So I have to be mindful of that too, and like remind myself to tell people, hey, heads up, I can tend to be this way. And this is a gift when we tell people, hey, this is how I operate and these are my maybe natural tendencies or my challenges. So remind me of like the why behind something and help me understand the impact it has and how I will benefit from it. That's just good employee engagement and team building. So when we manage up in that way or manage out to our peers that way, it's actually helpful for the whole team.
Well, and I think it keeps you accountable because then you've told everyone, hey, this is kind of how I operate and how I am. So you may work to like not respond certain ways or, just be more mindful of that.
Yeah, I would agree too. The only thing that I don't fit as well for the 7 is the deep feelings part. Like, I appreciate feeling. I think it's really important for you to do that. So that's the only thing that I can't necessarily feel as far as the 7s, but definitely the criticism part, making it real brief or setting it up so it don't sound like criticism. But that's something I have to work on because it's definitely essential for people to be able to give you feedback and you to take it and apply it without getting so defensive. So
yeah. That's really hard. 7s don't like to be criticized, but I mean, no type really does, but because it's not fun and it's not comfortable and it's not pleasurable. So if people need to make it really objective and pragmatic with like solutions for 7s. So like it says, be gentle with those criticisms. And that is, you can't direct.
I love that.
It is not opposite sides of the same coin. You can be direct and gentle, and that's part of being radically candid. If you've ever heard of that book, Radical Candor. All right. Thanks, everybody. That was great stuff. Okay, so for the 8, this type is called the challenger. And if I didn't mention, the 7 is the enthusiast, but the 8 is the challenger. And so they actually are they usually say that 8s are the highest energy type, 8-wing 7s usually. Their core fear is to appear as weak, powerless, hurt or harmed, to be controlled in any way, to have somebody manipulate them. And they do not like injustice on themselves or their loved ones or the underdog. And so what their core desire is to protect themselves and those in their inner circle from injustice and harm. And 8s are fierce in that way. That's something that they just really, Rebecca is really relating to this. Are you an 8? Okay, she's an 8 like you, Quay, yeah. And then their core weakness would be a lust or excess. So just always desiring intensity and control. They really push themselves to live life to the fullest, to take risks, to appear adventurous, and to get what they want. So 8s are likely to push and push and push, and to not necessarily notice sometimes how it's making others feel, because they are relentless in that way. They can actually look a lot like 3s in this way. This is kind of a similar thing of like being focused on image and focused on themselves. I don't think 3s or 8s would care as much about how they look, but maybe about the success they do achieve. And they really care about injustice and like equality and things like that. So 8s should not be scary, but a lot of times they look like probably the strongest or most potentially scary type. And that's just because they're strong and very, very ambitious. And sometimes that can just appear a little overwhelming to some other types. But that's why we talk about these things, so that we can all appreciate the different types on Enneagram. And then their deep core longing is that they will not be betrayed by others, that they can trust others. They're going to look strong, high energy, and powerful. They are usually quite hardworking and committed. They're very assertive. And if they're unhealthy, it can come off as aggressive and definitely confrontational. And we should understand that conflict and confrontation are not bad or evil. They are inevitable part of interaction with other humans, but they are more comfortable with the confrontation and addressing it and dealing with the communication in a conflict. So they're likely to bring it up. They can also appear kind of demanding. I do know a 7 or an 8 who I butt heads with a lot, because he's just a very demanding person. And then my wing 8 comes out and pushes back against how I don't want him to demand anything from me. And sometimes it's not a great conversation about things. But when we're both healthy and care about each other and see things from each other's perspectives, it gets a lot better. But that's one of the reasons that it's so important to understand our types and other people's types. So tell us, 8s, how do you want people to relate to you? How do you want your friends, family, and coworkers to understand your intensity?
So I'm kind of laughing because this is so me, and I'm kind of like, it's kind of messing with my head a little bit, because this is completely me, but I think like the one I see on the list is meeting me with some intensity. So with being an 8, it's almost like a natural thing to be intense.
Yeah.
It's not something I can even, sorry, it's my dogs. Okay. It's not something I can like turn off as well. There goes my dogs. They show my intensity. So it's not something I can turn off. So whenever I can kind of read people in a way where I know like my intensity, it's making them have like where they feel like I am being confrontational or I'm being aggressive or something like that. So for me as an 8, my expectations that, you know, that person turns that off and meets me with some of that intensity too, because I can't turn it off, or I don't even realize that's what I'm doing. So it's kind of like this double-edged sword of like, sometimes I can see it because I see it on other people's faces of how they're reacting to me, but I can't turn it off. That's just how I come.
Yeah, because that's just you at your core. That's okay. So maybe when you were in that other job and you tested as a 2, so if you were testing as a 2 and you are really an 8, do you feel like that was a good time of your life where you were feeling like you were growing and challenged, but in a good way?
Actually from your comment, I think that's when I wasn't super healthy. So I think I had the reverse of that, being a 2, again, with that 3 of like putting it all in, I'm the achiever, I'm just going to go with all this, and kind of like those 8 qualities. Yeah. But not really in a healthy way of doing that. Like, I think there's a healthy way to care for other people and to love doing that, but that wasn't super healthy for me. So I think as an 8, I think that's more in tune with who I am, because going back to kind of what you were talking about with the 7, with that getting feedback, for me as an 8, I'm going to start challenging someone because I want 4, 5, 6 reasons of why you're giving me this feedback and what that actually looks like and how I can be better. And I don't care how it's coming across to me or to someone else, or if they're like, wow, that was really intense feedback. I'm like, well, yeah, it's really intense, but here's 5-6 reasons why I needed that feedback. So as a challenger, if I get something like that, I'm going to say, okay, now back it up with 6 reasons or 5 reasons and how I can get better.
And you are the kind of person who then challenges a team to get really better and to be able to back up their reasons for doing things. So you're likely to lead a successful team because of that.
Yeah, my team sometimes hates it, sometimes loves it, but it's like a very interesting piece of just that balance. I think as an 8 compared to when I tested as a 2, I feel more balanced.
That's good.
As an 8 than a 2.
Yeah, we'll have to talk at the end of this. I have some more questions, but I don't want to manipulate everything. Any other 8s?
I'm an 8.
How do you feel like people should relate to you?
Huh?
How do you feel?
Okay. I think, I don't know. It's probably because it's me where I'm like, I don't know if this is actually me. But my main thing was an 8. And specifically the backing off when I'm angry.
Yeah.
Is that saying that that's what I do or I don't? Because to me, I do that.
For people to back off of you, or they should back off of 8s, because it's likely if you are meeting them with intensity, that's good. But if you can't do that, or if somebody's angry, to just leave them alone and let them cool down.
See, well, and maybe I'm just biased to myself, but sometimes I feel like I do that. Like when I'm upset, my natural reaction is to be quiet, so I don't say anything silly. So I don't say something that's actually on my mind. So maybe I train myself because I have the ability. I know I have the ability to say something out of line, but like being able to recognize this is just relax.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
See, like a value you have also of appearing relaxed and non-confrontational, but there's a lot of reasons for it. Kylie, do you have any other thoughts?
What is blustery style?
Which one? Blustery.
Accepting my blustery style.
Oh, that's a good point. I think blustery could be like harsh and brash, like coming and going. Like, is that how you would describe it, Kylie? You're muted.
Sorry, I was like just doing a quick Google search here. Yeah, just like I think like quick, like strong, like I don't know. That's what I think of, like
abrasive. Yeah,
just like abrasive or like.
So
I don't know.
Question for 8: what would be good about being an 8?
Oh, lots of. I mean, I know these sound intense, but I don't think intensity is a bad thing. So let's go back.
Well, and I also think. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say. I also think that 8s, and I've said this before, a lot of 8s that I know or have worked with are probably one of the most misunderstood types, because I think 8s are actually really tender, and they will fight for you. I think Haley maybe mentioned that. They will like fight for you. They will like you want an 8, to have your back, because there's a tenderness about them that they actually like care. So like even if some of these words feel really like strong, I think it's good to be reminded of this like tenderness piece that the 8s have.
That's a great point, because I think, like you said, they will fight for you. They really care about fighting injustice. That's a good thing. Being strong, powerful, high energy, hardworking, assertive, being good at confrontation and conflict, and being somebody who is brave enough to bring it up to groups, that's a good thing. Being demanding probably sounds bad, but like if we frame our mindset differently around that word and what it looks like, and if the person's being demanding in a good way, like they're demanding excellence. Like, is Ashley Marie still on the call? Yeah, she is. Like, so you're a 2, maybe wing 1, but I think that you kind of talked about excellence as being a value of yours. So you would probably see an 8 being demanding of excellence and respond well to it, I'm guessing. And you'd probably be like, yeah, well, heck yeah, they should demand excellence. They should demand the right work out of us. So these are good things. Like as long as we frame them differently in our minds.
I was,
No, go ahead.
8 is in my top 3. And when I actually read intensity, to me, that's like a positive all day, every day, because in the line of work that I work in, I think it's really important to have a strong attitude when we talk about serving and having good intentions to do so. So when you find people in your certain, like in your field, that don't match up with that intensity, I kind of sometimes sit back and be like, well, why are you in this line of work? And so I think like maybe having intensity can also motivate others to kind of set those expectations and realize that we need to better ourselves in order to better serve. We need to take care of ourselves in order to better serve. And so I thought most of the things on 8 is a lot of positive things. And then and the whole confrontation thing, I think if you don't know what's the problem, and that happens a lot to me, if I don't know what's going on in your mind, like there's no way I can know about it. Like we can't. So I think conversation and communication is like key in confronting problems, and that goes in like the work field and also in friendships. So
very insightful. Thank you for all of that, Rebecca. Thank you. That was great. And so Kia, I hope that you feel more empowered.
I do. Thank you.
I was just going to say, to Kia's point, because I think that this is something I defend about 8s, is the fact that I actually think 8s are pretty intuitive with people and with their body language. And so that piece of kind of backing off when you're a part of a certain conversation where it seems like you're the person that's being confrontational. I think that's a reaction to 8s of like, this is where and I think this is part of like that demanding piece. I'm not going to get what I want out of this conversation. So let me back up and then let me try again. Because I think that's a part of our demandingness of, at the end of this conversation, am I going to get what I expected out of it? And if the answer is no, I think that's whenever we start to back up, because we can kind of see people taking what we're saying kind of not where we want them to go. So then it's kind of like, okay, I will revisit this in a different manner, but I'm still going to get what I want in the end.
Yeah. That's really insightful too. All right. Okay, next is 9, and it looked like we didn't have anyone who was a 9. But I think earlier, Autumn maybe mentioned that the design of the Enneagram, so those 9 types on what looks like a witchcrafty clock face, it looks almost like a crown, and that is exactly what the 9 is called, is the crown of the Enneagram. So they're the peacemaker. They are the type that is most likely to feel like they don't need to take up any space and that their presence doesn't necessarily matter. So their core fear is that they may be in conflict or tension with somebody. They don't want to feel like they have conflict and it's like this kind of, like maybe with roommates or family, that there is something that's keeping them from just being in harmony, because that they really desire that as a core desire. They want an inner stability, peace of mind, and harmony with themselves and the others around them. I live with a 9 and she's like the best roommate ever because she's so harmonious. It's really, really lovely, actually. But sometimes I have to remind her to stand up for herself. And she's a wing 8, so that sometimes that does come out, or it comes out where she takes on those 8 qualities and really cares about injustice in a certain thing, and she'll fight for justice for people. But overall, as a 9, she wants to just live in peace and harmony. Hence the word peacemaker. Their core weakness is sloth, and so they may appear as homebodies and people who have small social circles. There are extroverted and very social 9s, but a lot of them appear more introverted. They definitely remain in an unrealistic and idealistic world in order to keep that peace, and they remain easygoing. They don't like to be disturbed by others' anger, and it can scare them and like upset them probably more than other types. And they actually sometimes tend to like merge with others and cling to another person in order to keep like the harmony in that. And again, what they desire to hear is that their presence matters. They do want to feel like people want them around, and their impact and their words are they matter. And actually, so President Barack Obama is a 9. And so, he won the Nobel Peace Prize, which was a little controversial because there was some war stuff. People were like, what? I'm a big fan of him and the Nobel Peace Prize thing, but he's a 9, so he's a peacemaker. And so that's why a lot of things that like he did were bipartisan, and he really tried to be moderate in certain ways so that he could get things done and work in a way that was not inducing a lot of intentional conflict. So if you look back on a lot of the things he did, you can kind of see that. Rebecca says, like, let's agree to disagree. It's better to agree. Yep, that's definitely what they would think, definitely. And so you'll see that with a lot of them as 9s as being people who create a lot of harmony in a group. So what we see is they're easygoing, laid back. They do like to be, I think, home a lot and in a comfortable space. They create harmony in teams. They can be diplomatic and really good mediators. Like I know Kylie has a good friend who's a 9, and she actually mediates like friendships discord sometimes if they're in fights. And apparently she's really good at seeing things from all the different perspectives. That's something that 9s are great at too. So it can be sometimes frustrating when you're complaining to a 9 about something, but they're seeing the other person's side of it. And it's like, no, excuse me, remember, don't talk about the nail in my head. Let me just talk about my headache, But it also is good when you're trying to mediate a relationship in conflict. They are quite patient with people, and I love hanging out with 9s for that reason, because I don't have that patience. And so it actually helps balance me out by being around people who are patient with me and with themselves and just like all of our surroundings. They can tend to be kind of passive. And so that may, sometimes sounds like a really good thing. And sometimes it's, it's something that they have to work on. It's not always good to be passive. We want to be assertive with certain things. And sometimes they can be avoidant. And that's where the sloth part comes in. So if you notice with all those core weaknesses, at some point, this kind of was adopted by, I think, Catholic monks at a certain point, and they helped assign certain of, and I'm not Catholic, but the 7 deadly sins +2, because there are 9 types, to these different personalities through the Enneagram. And so sloth is the one that was assigned to the 9. And that's that part of being avoidant and passive and maybe focusing on just being easygoing and getting along to get along. So we can relate to them by really appreciating their kindness, gentleness, and patience, and reminding them like, hey, your ideas matter. I've noticed that 9s are the type that a lot of times will say, and so tell me if you guys ever relate to something like this. I like to ask for advice from other people, even if I'm not going to take it, because I just want to know, like, well, what would other people do? What do they think? Is this thing cute? Sometimes you don't know, like, is the bamboo shelf cute? So I sent Kylie a picture of it. I was like, is this cute or not? And it was, but didn't get it. But some people sometimes will say, oh, it's up to you. And that drives me insane, because I know it's up to me and I'll do whatever I want anyway. But a lot of times 9s will say that exact statement. Well, it's up to you. Well, I know, but your presence matters. Your thoughts, your ideas, and your contribution matters. Like, tell me, I want to know what you think about this, because I value what you think. And then just encouraging them to express frustrations and grievances, encouraging them to speak up for themselves if maybe something unjust happened to them. So what do you guys think about this? Think about 9s. Do any of the 8s feel like maybe you have a 9 wing?
I definitely do.
So, well, wait, are you with your 7 though?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm a 7. Oh God.
Oh gosh.
I'm choking on these Enneagrams. Okay. Hold on. I'll be right back on.
Okay. She's going to figure that out. I hope you're okay. Any of the 8s feel like you have?
Whew, I'm back.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm a 7-8. My highest is a 7. I think my second highest was 8, and then it was between an 8 and a 9.
Okay.
So I agree. I think for me, I like to keep a clear mind, and even like with my space, I like my space to be pretty peaceful, and so that's like how I like my mind to be.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that when I get that from other people.
That's good. Yeah. Well, and if sometimes people have a hard time deciding which Enneagram type they are, a lot of times they're actually a 9, because 9s relate so much to all of the other types, and they can find so much like correlation and what's another word for relating, but like, yeah, just relating to other people and other types. All right, now we are not covering the wings, so we'll maybe do that another time if they want to bring us back. But so I hope this has been helpful to you all to understand yourselves and other types better and to have a high level of communication around the Enneagram. So maybe when you're talking with each other and working with others who know about the Enneagram, use this as a common language and share definitions. So like whenever I meet somebody who knows about Enneagram, it's really fun to be able to talk about that subculture and to be able to like relate. So Kylie and I constantly talk about our Enneagram types and other people's, and it really helps us to like understand others and to give them more grace, be more patient with people when we know what their core fears and core longings are. So yeah, please stay on and ask questions. We're over time, so I'll stay on and we will ask any or answer some questions and engage if you guys have any questions. We do coaching around Enneagram, so if you do have any like needs for leadership coaching, feel free to reach out to us. And this is my contact information. So feel free to email or call. This is my LinkedIn profile also. So if you guys actually have the LinkedIn app, you can open your camera on your phone and hold it up to this QR code, and we'll actually then find the link for my LinkedIn profile. So please reach out, link in with me, and if you do, send me a message just so I remember like how I know you so that I'll accept you. Sometimes, you know, you get some randos who are doing that. But yeah, I would love to connect. Definitely sign up also on the website, vaxacollective.com, and you'll get updates of other webinars that we lead and events, other tips and resources for team building, professional development, and leadership. And then you'll also get a free guide for 6 actionable ways that you can actually improve your team culture immediately just by implementing those things. So please do reach out, and we look forward to hearing from you and linking in with you. If you need to get off, feel free to hop off too. This is recorded, and Autumn will post it on the YouTube page.
Thank you. This was great.
Thank you all so much for participating. Love working with you all. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Oh, people are already connecting.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, Ashley Marie and Galen. Great.
Cool. Do you want to stop recording?
Oh, yeah.
These people are staying on.
So we can make it stop recording.